As we arrive at the final part of Rich Woman, the conversation begins to evolve beyond financial survival, beyond earning, beyond investing, beyond even financial independence itself. Because eventually, wealth becomes about something deeper, something more lasting, legacy. And Kim Kiyosaki wants readers to understand something profoundly important. A rich woman is not simply a woman who has money. A rich woman is a woman who has freedom, confidence, wisdom, purpose, and the ability to positively impact the lives around her. Throughout this journey, Kim has shown that financial education changes more than bank accounts. It changes identity. It changes choices. It changes relationships. It changes confidence. It changes future generations. And now, she asks one final question. What kind of life will your financial choices create long after you are gone? Because legacy is not only about what we leave behind financially. It is about what we teach, what we model, what we inspire, and the emotional inheritance we pass forward. Kim believes women hold extraordinary power in shaping families, communities, businesses, and culture. And when women become financially empowered, the ripple effects can transform generations. This final part of Rich Woman is not simply about becoming wealthy. It is about becoming a woman whose life creates impact beyond herself. A woman whose courage becomes someone else's permission. A woman whose growth changes family patterns. A woman whose decisions create opportunities for people she may never even meet. And that is true wealth. Kim begins this section by challenging the way society often defines success. Many people spend years chasing external symbols: expensive homes, luxury brands, social status, impressive titles, and visible success. But Kim explains that external success alone does not always create fulfillment, because eventually, many people reach a point where they begin asking deeper questions. Is this all there is? What impact am I making? What am I building beyond myself? What will remain after I'm gone? And this is where the journey shifts from success to significance. Success is often personal. Significance expands beyond the self. Kim explains that true wealth eventually becomes less about accumulation and more about contribution. Because money without meaning eventually feels empty. But wealth connected to purpose becomes transformational. Imagine a woman who achieved everything society told her to pursue. A successful career, financial comfort, recognition, status. Externally, her life looked impressive, but internally, something still felt incomplete. Because despite the success, she realized she had spent years building a lifestyle, without asking what kind of legacy she truly wanted to create. Kim explains that many people eventually experience this awakening, and it often becomes the beginning of a deeper, more meaningful chapter of life. Because once survival needs are met, the human spirit naturally searches for meaning. Kim emphasizes that financial freedom creates something incredibly valuable: space. Space to think, space to breathe, space to contribute, space to focus on things that matter deeply. When people are trapped constantly worrying about survival, their energy becomes consumed by immediate pressure. But as financial freedom grows, people gain the emotional and mental capacity to think beyond themselves. And that is where legacy begins. But legacy is not only built through money, it is built through influence. And whether women realize it or not, their influence reaches far beyond what they can see. Kim strongly believes women are among the most powerful influences in society. Not only because many women raise families, but because women shape emotional culture. They shape conversations, values, habits, beliefs, confidence, identity, and often, they do this quietly. A mother influences how children view money. A businesswoman influences how teams think. A mentor influences how younger women see themselves. A financially empowered woman influences what others believe is possible. Kim explains that many women underestimate the significance of their influence. But influence spreads in ways impossible to measure fully. One woman's courage can inspire another woman to begin investing. One woman's confidence can inspire another woman to leave an unhealthy environment. One woman's leadership can shift an entire community, and often, the ripple effects continue long after the original action. Imagine a little girl watching her mother navigate life. She notices whether her mother fears money, whether she avoids difficult conversations, whether she believes in herself, whether she feels trapped, or whether she moves through life with confidence and capability. Children absorb emotional patterns deeply, even when nothing is spoken directly. Kim explains that financially empowered women often unconsciously teach future generations confidence, ownership, resilience, and possibility. And sometimes, that becomes more valuable than money itself. One of the most emotional ideas in Rich Woman is the idea of breaking inherited financial fear. Many families unknowingly pass down scarcity thinking, fear of investing, financial avoidance, dependency, and limiting beliefs. Children grow up hearing, "We can't afford it. Money is stressful. Investing is dangerous. Rich people are greedy. People like us never become wealthy." Over time, these beliefs become generational patterns. Kim believes financially educated women have the power to interrupt those patterns. Because when one woman changes her relationship with money, future generations often change too. Instead of fear, children begin learning confidence. Instead of limitation, they begin learning possibility. And that changes family trajectories dramatically. Imagine being the first woman in your family to truly become financially educated, the first to invest, the first to build assets, the first to break cycles of fear and dependency. At first, the changes may feel small, but over years, the impact becomes enormous. Your children think differently. Their children think differently. Opportunities expand. Fear decreases. And suddenly, an entirely different family future begins unfolding. That is the power of one woman deciding to grow. If this audiobook insight is inspiring you to think bigger about wealth, influence, and legacy, subscribe to SR Books Insights for more transformational lessons on mindset, success, leadership, and personal growth. Because financial freedom is not only about changing your life, it is about changing what becomes possible for others, too. Now let's continue. Kim explains something many people rarely discuss openly. Financial dependence often limits personal freedom emotionally. When people feel financially trapped, fear shapes decisions. Fear of speaking honestly. Fear of leaving unhealthy environments. Fear of disappointing others. Fear of uncertainty. But financial independence changes this dynamic profoundly because freedom creates confidence. A financially empowered woman often begins thinking differently, speaking differently, leading differently, and living more authentically. Not because money magically changes personality, but because capability changes emotional security. Kim emphasizes that women who understand they can support themselves often stop living from desperation. And that emotional shift transforms relationships, leadership, and self-worth. Imagine a woman who spent years staying silent, avoiding conflict, avoiding financial discussions, avoiding leadership opportunities. Not because she lacked intelligence, but because dependency created fear underneath. Then slowly, she begins learning financial education. She builds savings, understands investing, creates additional income streams, and over time, something changes internally. She begins trusting herself. Her posture changes. Her confidence changes. Her willingness to speak changes. Because capability creates emotional freedom, and emotional freedom changes presence. Kim repeatedly reminds readers, money itself is not the ultimate goal. Freedom is the goal. Impact is the goal. Purpose is the goal. Money is simply a tool, and like any tool, its value depends on how it is used. Kim challenges the stereotype that wealth automatically corrupts people. Instead, she believes money often magnifies existing character. A generous person with wealth can help more people. A visionary person with wealth can create opportunities. A compassionate person with wealth can support important causes. This is why mindset matters deeply. Because financially empowered women can become extraordinary forces for good. Imagine two wealthy individuals. One spends endlessly trying to impress others. The other uses wealth to educate, mentor, support families, fund opportunities, build communities, and empower future generations. Same money, different purpose. Kim encourages women to think beyond personal luxury. Because true legacy is built through contribution. Kim explains that growth never truly ends. Financially successful people remain students throughout life. They continue learning, adapting, evolving, and expanding their understanding. Why? Because the world changes constantly. Technology changes, industries evolve, new opportunities emerge, and those willing to keep learning remain adaptable and relevant. Kim encourages women not to become trapped by fear of age or timing, because transformation can happen at any stage of life. Imagine a woman in her 50s or 60s thinking, I should have started earlier. It's too late now. Kim strongly rejects this thinking because every year someone delays growth is another year lost to fear. And some of the most powerful transformations begin later in life. Not because the journey becomes easier, but because wisdom and experience create strength. The moment someone stops focusing on lost time, they reclaim present power. Kim emphasizes something powerful. Legacy is rarely created through one dramatic moment. It is built quietly, through repeated daily actions, small habits, small conversations, small decisions. Every day people are teaching others something through example, how they handle stress, how they handle money, how they respond to challenges, how they speak about possibility. Over time, those patterns shape lives. And eventually, they shape generations. Kim explains that people remember how others made them feel. Children remember confidence. Teams remember leadership. Communities remember courage. This is why becoming financially empowered matters beyond personal comfort. Because empowered women often unconsciously become role models for others, and role models expand what people believe is possible. Near the conclusion of Rich Woman, Kim asks readers to reflect deeply. Not only, how much money do I want? But, what kind of woman do I want to become? What impact do I want to leave? What emotional legacy will continue after me? What future am I helping create? Because eventually, life becomes less about accumulation and more about meaning. And financially empowered women have incredible capacity to create meaningful change. Part 4 of Rich Woman reminds us that wealth is not the final destination. It is the foundation for something greater. A foundation for leadership, contribution, influence, freedom, confidence, generosity, and legacy. Kim Kiyosaki's message is deeply empowering because she reminds women that they are capable of far more than survival. They are capable of transformation, capable of leadership, capable of breaking cycles, capable of building wealth, capable of shaping future generations. And perhaps the greatest lesson of all is this: when one woman becomes financially empowered, she rarely changes only her own life. She changes what becomes possible for everyone connected to her. If this audiobook insight inspired you, subscribe to SR Books Insights and share this with someone ready to build not only financial freedom, but a life of meaning and legacy. Because true wealth is not measured only by what we accumulate. It is measured by the lives we impact and the future we help create. This is Rich Woman, narrated by SR Books Insights. This is more than mindset. It's a mission. Keep seeking, keep growing, keep giving. And together, let's make the world rich again.